Howdy, and welcome to Radiohead Music Theory, Episode 2. It's not a good sign when you forget what you're doing halfway through the introduction. But we're going to keep this video very simple today, very straightforward, concise. We're only going to look at two songs because we want to keep it, straightforward and concise. And I'm going to stop using the words straightforward and concise so we can get to the fact that so we can get to the concision part of it. So today what we're looking at is a major seventh note in a major scale. And if that sounds like too confusing, because a lot of music theory stuff is like way too confusing than it actually is. Like it's explained confusing, but it's actually really simple. And so if you're unfamiliar with music theory, you've heard the major scale though, we all have. So, we're all familiar with that. And it has 7 notes in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then it repeats. And then it starts over. And so you can call that the 1, or you can call it the 8 because it's right after the 7. But that's just the same note we started with, it's just an octave higher. The major 7th note in that scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you can hear it's right, the note right before the C again. The C is the note we started on. And if you really want to resolve it, or just relieve the tension basically, and so what Radiohead uses a lot of times is they actually build tension by not resolving it and generate like some emotion that you, the listener, or I, also the listener, feel. The first example we're going to look at is a motion picture soundtrack, and I'm choosing 2 songs that are like more of the emotional, don't know if I'd call them ballad, but very bittersweet type of song, very gentle in a way. And so the first one, motion picture soundtrack off of Kid A, and this song starts with a G. That wasn't a G, that was like a G minor. So we have a G, and remember this is being played on an organ. And then you have a C sus2, which you could also just... And there, B minor add 9, back to the C sus2. And so what they're doing is they're adding that major 7 note, because in the key of G, which this song is in, the major 7th note is that F sharp right there, so that note is the one we're looking out for. So doing it once again. I'm speeding it up a little. So when you hit that B minor at 9, you can really hear it. And then... So there's that little harmonic piece that's... Once I hit the major 7 in the on the organ, it goes downward to... really, it gets like to the peak of the tension and then resolves downward instead of resolving upward, which makes sense because it's not the end of the phrase. So there's 4 chords: the G, C, the C sus2, the B minor add 9. There's some of these chords are like, well, these are pretty straightforward chords, but they take a while to pronounce. And then back to the C sus2 for the 4th chord, and so that B minor 9 where they add that F sharp. Really, it's not the last chord, so therefore it has that built-in tension, and they don't even really technically resolve it fully when they go back to the C sus2, because again, that harmonic piece when they hit that, so it's like... So this is the little harmonic thing. And they hit the 3rd, a B. Yeah, I was like, wait, that's not a... So they hit the 3rd note, the major 3rd note, which is a B. And the B is one of the, it's one of the notes naturally in a G chord. So it's very pleasing if you're in the key of G. And so they resolve, but they don't resolve up to the G. So playing it one more time, just because I've been kind of playing it, cutting it off and interspersing my own Analysis. We're going to play it more simply. So there is a bit of resolution because you end up going back to the G, but that is at the start of the next bar, basically. And the C sus2, which is again the fourth chord there, also has some resolution because there's a really high G note being played, but in my opinion, the attention isn't really drawn to it. The attention is drawn downward by that harmonic downward progression that we've talked about many times. And to my ear, it really adds a lot of tension because you just hit that major 7 and you don't resolve to the, like you would expect. It goes downward, and there is a bit of resolution in the chord, but it's not obvious at all. In my opinion, it's not obvious like to the ear, as in it doesn't like stand out like, okay, there's a resolution. There is this tension, and I keep saying that's the best word, I guess, to describe it. The emotion that builds up. And so we're going to transition swiftly into a song called True Love Waits off of A Moon-Shaped Pool, their most recent album. And so what they're doing here, or what Tom is doing, is also on a non-stringed instrument. This is on, I think, just piano, just a piano ballad. What he's doing is he's holding a C major 7 chord. And so a C chord has the major 1, major 3, major 5 notes in it. So, we were doing so it has the 1, the 3, and the 5. And so what it has, the C major 7 chord has all of those in it, but it has the extra major 7. So it has... So again, it has that tension note. So it has that in it. So the chord itself has that built-in emotion. And you see this, like, it's used in a ton of songs, but, well, not just Radiohead songs, just tons of songs everywhere. But in this particular song, what they're doing is they're arpeggiating, or I think just Tom is just playing. He's arpeggiating that chord, so... And so by fiddling around with that chord, it creates a sense of tension without actually having to move the chord, which is pretty cool because it's a chord that is since it's the tonic, or basically, in other words, the main chord of that song, it naturally sounds pretty good because it's the main chord, and a lot of things resolve to it rather than it resolving to other things generally. And therefore you'd expect it to be just kind of, if we're just playing the regular without the major 7. It sounds, pretty pleasing by itself, but adding that major 7 note adds a sense of tension without actually leaving that peaceful chord. So there's like this dissonance between the tension and the resolution. So it's like they don't really have to do much. They're just playing that simple chord, arpeggiating it. The timing of that I haven't figured out yet, but I think you get the gist. Yeah, they play it in a very Radiohead-esque type of arpeggiation, which I'll probably cover later, but I need to still get my mind around. And it's very easy to notice when you're on piano too. If you play it on piano, which is where I was first learning some of the notes of it, it's you can visibly see, because he hits the 1, the major 1, the major 3, the major 7, then the major 5. So in a story, there's like the ups and the downs and all that stuff. And if it was all just like that, it would just be boring. There would be no emotion generated because there's no tension. And that's similar in music, in my opinion. Is that the ups and the downs of the tension and the resolution are really what make it interesting and create a genuine emotion in you. You could feel the sadness and like the bittersweetness of these ballads. So for this video, I decided I wanted to keep it more on the short side. I mean, it's still going to be, I guess, a little over 10 minutes, maybe more. But I also wanted to kind of explain a little bit for some people who aren't too versed in theory. So you can feel free to let me know if I explained it too simply, if I didn't explain it well enough. I'm trying not, I want people to enjoy this, and I want it to appeal to a lot of people. But it's like, I guess you can't please everyone at the end of the day. So I just hope you enjoyed it, and take care.